All right, three, two, one. Hey guys, welcome back to the Wade Podcast with your host Sajid Merwar. On this week, we're going to be talking about the way of a collector. What does collecting mean to you, and how does someone get into collecting? Can you make money from it? On this episode, we're going to be talking about anything and everything related to collecting. I am joined by two guests this week. The first is named Christian, and the second is named Beck. So, Christian, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Christian, and I collect a wide variety of things. Some people classify it as hoarding, but I'm I like to call it a man of many talents. So yeah.
Sweet.
Um,
Beck.
yeah, my name is Beck. I collect a couple different things. Mostly it pertains to hardcover books, pertaining to graphic novels, Dungeons and Dragons. I collect Lego and figures. Some would call me an addict. Then I see Christian's collection and realize I'm not that far down the down the rabbit hole yet.
You're not there yet.
He's not at that level.
Yeah,
All right.
so that's my status in the collecting world.
Great, great. So now that we've introduced the guests and everyone on the topic for this week, let's move on to the first question. What does collecting mean to you guys?
I think we should. Do you want to go first, Christian?
Oh,
I think you have a little bit to say on the matter.
I might have a bit of an answer to this question. So the way I guess like to describe this how I started collecting was basically I started back like in 2012, 2013, and I saw a bunch of people buying vintage video games, and I thought, oh, that's kind of fun. You know, like these old games are being preserved by these people that really enjoy them. So I thought I would get in on that and start, collecting and trying them out myself. And the reason I like collecting is basically like people nowadays are moving more digitally, right? With like movies, books, like streaming everything. That's not really owning something. I see collecting as you own a tangible object that you will, no matter what happens to the internet, when to your collection online, you own that item definitively because you can hold it in your hands. That's how I define collecting, or why I
Yeah,
enjoy collecting.
yeah, that's a great answer. I probably could have thought of something like that. That's for sure. Beck, do you have anything to say?
Yeah. So for me, I do think Christian's definition is actually something true. I believe there is a lot of value in what he said. Um, for me, I'd agree with what he said completely. I just think collecting can be expanded out to the digital realm. Though I think it's just a collection of or gathering a large group of similar items or products, just products in general, and just creating a large body of them in your own possession. Because I mean, yes, the rules around ownership digitally are different than physical, and I would say for sure with physical, more easily, it's much more easy to define what is yours and what isn't yours. But I still would say, like, if you've downloaded a collection of music on your phone that you've paid for, it's yours. It's just there's a different life cycle to it almost because as much as you're correct about the product itself being yours forever, I would say that there is it's just got a different life cycle. Those physical products can wear out and die eventually, which is a conversation to have.
Good point. It's also more convenient. So
Yeah, as we've proven.
That's true. Yeah, and I guess for me, I've been a collector of a few different things as well. People who know me, I'm into watches. I've collected, trading cards and stuff like that. Even when I was young, I collected coins and stuff like that. And yeah, I would agree. I think that what it really means to like collect and why we collect is something that we've had for so long, like as humans. It's like we attach value that is not inherently there to a lot of things, right? Like Oh, for example, you watch this movie and you really like it, so you buy the set related to the movie. For me, I love Lord of the Rings. I have the extended version set, with all the extra little bits and bobs that no one else would really care about, right? But I've watched that movie probably, I don't know, 150 times, maybe 200 times in my entire life. Um, and it's just really special to me. It reminds me of watching the film with my family and just getting so excited over Frodo traveling to Mordor to try and um, destroy the ring and all that and the whole adventure around it. And whenever I look at that and I have that piece of honestly, it's just a piece of plastic, really. It reminds me of all these memories around it.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, that's pretty much why I think that's why for me, that's almost why I listen to music in some ways, as soundtracks, is because those memories are brought back with that. And I know it's kind of outside the realm of it, but that's some of the reason I download soundtracks is just because you're listening to that one song from this one, whether it's scene in Star Wars or a level in a video game, and it reminds you of those memories that you had at that time in your life when you were playing through that or watching that. I just think that's a really important thing, and I agree with you on that. I think that could also be derived from a product too, like a physical, just like a tangible object. But actually, yes, I agree.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. That's how I see with like if I own a movie, for example, on 4K, not 4K, but already on Blu-ray. For example, Blade Runner. I love that movie. I've seen it maybe 6, 7 times, and I only watched it like a year ago. And basically, I already had the Blu-ray, but I just got a 4K player. I love that movie so much. I bought the 4K, knowing I will definitely rewatch that movie. And it's just seeing that 4K gives me memories of watching that movie again and just how much I love it. Similar to the Lord of the Rings with Sujin.
I think movies like that apply to all of us, though. I think movies and games, that's kind of where the power of it lies in, though, for a lot of us. But okay, outside of those things, because I would say as much as those collections are driven by your life experiences, but like, what are the things that you've collected that are just the largest assortment you have, or like why have you gone so deep into collecting these objects or products in general? I'd say. Any answers?
Oh God, don't get me started.
Yeah, you've gone through a few of those dives.
Christian,
I've gone through about 4 phases, 4 big phases.
there's 4 phases of Christian.
First was the video games, all vintage, and then I moved more to like PlayStation 2, 3.
The Room.
Oh, God.
We don't talk about The Room. Then it moved on to comic books midway between that. Just here and there buying the dollar comic, and then now it's kind of escalated. I have like close to 2,000.
God damn.
Hang on a second. Can we go back 2,000?
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's roughly the count. Probably more.
Yeah. You should probably add a couple hundred for the ones you're having on consignment for me.
Don't worry, we won't tell
okay.
anyone where you live. You won't get robbed, I promise.
Oh, okay. What else? Like anime, I got into for a bit. I still love anime, but I haven't bought a figure or anything in like 2 years. So
That's good.
it's just mainly
He's gonna relapse soon.
The big reason for that is though, like, it kind of goes into a further discussion I'll probably bring about later, but there are some items you buy that you just don't like. You personally never care about the value, at least for me. Like, I don't care about the value of my anime figures. I just love them because I like anime. I like the animes they're from.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah. So that further discussion. What was the final thing? Oh yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Don't get me started on that.
Oh no.
That was a pandemic.
No.
Spurred
You
on by that.
relapsed. You relapsed on that when you were a kid.
I relapsed during the pandemic on that. I used to collect as a kid, and then
I feel like it's partially my fault.
Yeah, I partially blame you.
I got him. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
back at the beginning of high school. I got Christian back into Yu-Gi-Oh because I was still playing, like, very casually here and there, And
in.
And then I just kind of spiraled. I'm like, oh, I like these cards I play in the digital game. Let me get a physical deck.
It's
And then
g-
went from, oh, let me get the physical deck to let me get every single ultimate rare in the fucking game.
yeah,
You know,
let me get every single high. Let me deck out my deck and just get the
Oh,
shiniest cards ever.
the Black Wings
Oh
deck, the
god,
Dino
Black
deck.
Wings.
Oh. But yes, those are the 4 phases of me. Honestly, what was your question, Beck? We kind of
I was just saying.
spiraled
I
out
was
of
just
there.
saying, what was the biggest collection you went to? What is the deepest you've been, and why? Like, or why? I guess.
I mean, the deepest I'm in right now is definitely comics, mainly because one, I bought a lot of the retro games. I just didn't like. I really didn't care about them at all, so I sold a lot of them to pay for my other collections. And like recently,
Are we
I'd
forgetting
say,
the Funko Pops?
Oh.
oh god, we haven't even gotten into the Funko Pops. Don't even get into those.
The
That's too much.
multi-cabinet saga. That one is.
Oh, bad.
Okay, but yes, currently it's comics, and basically for a good 3-4 years, I didn't read a single comic. I was just buying them because good value. Good
Yeah.
value. I bought this book for $5. It's worth 50. Yay! But I recently started to read comics, actually, not be a fake fan, and I've been enjoying it. So I've been purchasing more comics I enjoy. I recently got into the Invincible series, and I started collecting the comics for that,
Oh yeah.
stuff like that. But yes,
You're a
comics would definitely
bandwagon.
be screw you. And comics would definitely be the biggest one right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say the video game collection. I'd say honestly, it's the one you probably went the most deep in. I think you pretty much hit every single major point, like from the NES era onwards.
Oh yeah, I owned at least 30
you
consoles.
had the collection, I think, and that's probably why you stopped because there was like nothing else left.
Yeah, he just hit the
Like,
It wasn't that there was
ceiling there.
nothing else left. It was that everything I wanted was so like unattainable or so expensive. I just couldn't get it like reasonably at that point.
Yeah, but I mean, you hit basically everything you could. Is my point. Where with comic books, like you're still really like there's still so much left for you to go after. With I feel like the NES, you kind of just hit a point where we're like, okay, like I'm done. Like there's nothing else I can do.
Yeah,
So I don't know. Still think that's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
fair.
yeah. I mean, for me, I'd probably say something I got the most into when it comes to collecting is watches.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I've been into watches for like since probably last 5 years, maybe 6 years, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a while, and I've always like in the beginning it started out like there's these watches that we call in the industry we call fashion watches. And they're like the watches that get everyone into watches that are kind of like the cheap pieces of crap that just look nice, and you're like, wow, oh my god, $90 is so much for a watch, right? And
No, it's not.
yeah, it's not. P.S. guys, it's not. Spoiler. Yeah, and then from there is when I really got into it. Learning about the history of these brands and how they contributed to the world. Like so many watches were involved in critical timekeeping expeditions and used in space to save people's lives, timing how long it would take for the space station to round the Earth so they could get back without blowing up from the sun. Like there's so many things. Time is such an important thing, and whenever I look down at a watch, it always reminds me. It's like you should always value time, right? It's the most valuable thing, and you see it ticking away every day, right? And I know it's getting a little metaphorical about something you just wear on your wrist, but it's very people would consider it antiquated now. Like, oh, I can just check the time on my phone, but it's not really about knowing the time all like always, right? It's more about the feeling that you have with a watch, what you attach to it. Same thing like we were talking about before. These certain things give us trigger memories of going places. Like for example, I have this one watch. It's a Seiko, and I've gone on like a bunch of trips with my family, wearing that watch, going on the school trip, very memorable school trip. And every time I look at the watch and wear it, I can think back like, oh, I see the scratch on the watch. I remember when I got that in this place when we were, you know, going. We were at the beach where it was like full of rocks and you're swimming around, and I scraped it on a rock or something. And or I saw this when I remember when it flew out of my bag and I forgot to because I forgot to zip it at this site we saw in Chicago or something like that. And all these things like can be triggered by such a small object, and they also, they look pretty nice too. They're nice. They're nice
Kind of a
fashion.
flex. They're
Yeah.
kind of a flex.
Yeah, well, but there's a lot of like snobbery around watches and stuff, just like there isn't anything elitism. But they're one thing that my family has always been into, and I've gotten into in the last few years, and I think I'll be into for the rest of my life, really.
I mean, there's a reason why watches have stood the test of time, even though phones have been around for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a place for them, so it's not a bad hobby to have.
Yeah, and moving on, I think we should talk a little bit about speaking about elitism, and especially of all things collecting. There is so much elitism when it comes to something that is very like can be so casual, something that is so relaxing and just to do on the side, but people will somehow make it into something bigger than what it is and attach their identity to what they own.
So
don't even get me
yeah.
started with the Yu-Gi-Oh community on that. Oh my god.
I was not going to talk about that. I got two things just quickly. Unrelated sidebar. These watch manufacturers, if you told me they were the names of spaceships in Star Wars, I genuinely wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Like, they're just some that are just so out there. You said Seiko, I could be like, oh yeah, that's a Star Wars spaceship.
Yeah, that's Star Wars spaceship.
That's unrelated. But when you started talking about elitism, I thought you were going to talk about like high fashion. I didn't think we were going to Yu-Gi-Oh first, but
Christian, come out of left field. These guys will
trade
trade with me at the card shop, bro. These guys are ruthless.
Oh my god. Don't even get me started. These guys are just such assholes most of the time.
Yeah, well, that's just most nerds. That's just most communities. Like, let's be honest.
Like that's honestly
most communities.
Most
communities. Oh yeah, I won't lie. Most communities are just elitist in general.
Yeah, there's every community has some level of snobbery. Yeah, exactly. They want to feel that they have power, even though it's really nothing. The only reason it has value is because you're placing value on this object or this specific task that you're doing. Like, oh, look at my rank in this video game. Oh, I am elite to you. Oh, elite versus you. You're a peasant to me. Oh, you won't trade me this Yu-Gi-Oh card? You're not worth anything to me. Oh, you wear this watch brand instead of this watch brand? You're not a real watch collector. Or like that's really rampant in the watch community because it's been around for so long. Like,
yeah.
Because watches can get up astronomical prices, like for something you wear on your wrist, right? It can go from a $10 Casio that I'm wearing on my wrist right now to $1 million watch that is handcrafted by a single person, and there's 88 moving parts and a mechanical. Everything is made out of gold, and there are diamonds interlaced in the movement, and it's like, oh, if you don't have this $100,000 watch, you're not a real watch collector.
Yeah, the watch is a weird. The watch is a really weird market comparatively. I think because if you think about the pricing and how it all spaced out, like because there's such a large range in the prices. It's actually kind of similar to clothing, but like with Yu-Gi-Oh cards and like most nerd stuff. Like there's a pretty, it's a range, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
most nerd stuff.
But the entry point isn't as crazy as like a watch. Like for example, a comic is $4.99.
Yeah, I agree and disagree. I'm just saying that the range on how high and low it's going to get.
Yeah, the extremes are more extreme.
It's way tighter. Like you're right. The extremes are more extreme. Like again, like you said, there's the $10 and there's the $1 million. That applies almost to clothing also. But with most like Christian said with comic books, like there's a base market value for what they're all like set at immediately, and then from there, depending on rarity and importance to the franchise, the brand that they're specifically attached to, then it adjusts the overall value of it. But it's got a base market price where everything else and a lot of those other things is all over the place.
Yeah, the watch market is very. It's because it's such an old market. It's like comparing like to the car market or any of these sort of like mechanical feats that have been so important in like modern society. Like if you think about 50 years ago, that was like, oh, you get your first. It's like your hey son, you get your first hat. You get your first adult hat like they used to wear at the 60s, and here's your first watch. Like it's something that every person needed on a daily basis because you couldn't tell the time
Back then,
otherwise.
and maybe you could argue today too, like a
Yeah,
watch. I mean, most
like
people, I
a,
think, at
a
least,
watch is more functional at
yeah,
telling the time.
yeah, no, for sure, it's a good
Then
functional thing to have than a
yeah,
hat, but you know what I mean.
yeah, I understand, but it's like
Yeah,
one of those things that's been around for so long, and
it's ingrained in our culture.
yeah,
Let's be
and
honest.
one thing about watches is that they compared to a lot of other sort of collectible items, they always keep most watches keep their value. If you
Yeah,
buy specific brands, for example, you buy a Rolex sports watch, like a Rolex Submariner, the most famous watch in the world, that watch will go up in value as soon as you buy it. Every time. No matter what year you're in, it'll go up indefinitely. And you always know you're in the middle of the desert, everyone knows where Rolex is. Like you can resell that Rolex for it's good as gold.
yeah.
Yeah.
Unlike Yu-Gi-Oh cards, as we've discovered.
Oh, it's good as garbage, as they say. It's okay. Hey man, they're fun to
Worth less
play.
than the paper they're printed on.
Yeah. Christian muted himself.
That's
No.
not the reason why I'm muting myself.
Number one victory royale?
uh,
No, but I think they're talking about I think another important thing to talk about when you talk about just collecting in general is like you want to talk about what you collect, why you collect. But I think a lot of times we all make at least I find with certain industries, people make up excuses for why they collect, but really what they want to do is, especially I find this in fashion, it's more about self identity rather than like. Actually, sorry, all collecting is about self identity in a weird way.
yeah.
But I mean, with fashion, it feels more like you're trying to get into a certain group rather than you're already in a certain group. Because I don't know, like when I see all this, like a lot of the times when you hear about the fashion stories about people buying these things, it's not like you obviously hear about the big rich people getting it, but you also hear about the average person just buying into that lifestyle to almost have a piece of it through that fashion and live vicariously through it, which I just think is interesting and different compared to other industries that of collecting, like again, nerd things, books, like figures, comics, cards, whatever else you want to describe. I just think fashion's industry for interesting for that one reason because again, it's living a lifestyle vicariously rather than actually living it.
Yeah, I totally get that. Like when it comes because you don't walk around with your figurine. I
Well,
mean, I mean, some people
well, all
do.
the sane people do.
Yeah, so certain people do, but
Well,
but
99% of people that are sane don't.
they'll walk out with the memorabilia that they collect, right?
They rep it.
Unless it's an accessory, like it's a fashionable item, and then clothing itself is something we wear all the time, and
Yeah.
it's used as um, a representation of status and I guess almost sometimes personal value. And that's when it gets like dodgy, or the relationship between collecting, especially when it comes to clothing, it gets really
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's hard because people connect so much of their self worth to how they look, and clothing plays a big part in how you look. So,
Hmm.
I literally was out today at the outlet malls with my family, and you see all these people dressed in Louis Vuitton head to toe, and they're wearing all these designer brands. And I always think to myself, it's like, do they really like these brands? Do they just want to seem like they're a baller or like they're rich, you know?
Yeah. For
And
sure.
sometimes it can cheapen how you look. I like designer brands. I don't like them all the time. I'm not a big logo kind of guy, but Hugo Boss makes a nice suit. Like they're gonna make a nice quality product. Gucci makes nice bags, but if you're just wearing like just because you want to wear Gucci just because it says Gucci on it, I feel like if we're gonna look at an extreme example of this in the clothing industry, Supreme is the
Yeah,
perfect
no,
example of
yeah.
this.
I think you're right. I think it's almost a weird thing because again, I agree with you on that whole idea of um, people sometimes cheapening it. But I also think it's one thing that's a kind of an unfortunate byproduct. It's honestly, I feel like it hurts the artistry more than anything else. Because I do think there are some definite designer clothes where you can see the artistry that's gone into it and like the work that creators put into it to really put their soul into it. And I think it just kind of partially takes the soul out of it when people are just going after it for money.
Exactly.
But I think Supreme is unique in the sense that almost I feel like, in my personal opinion, I know this may bother some people. I don't see the artistry in slapping your company logo on a T-shirt and then calling it a day and then
No, no.
selling it for absurd prices.
That's not even the best example of that, Beck. The Supreme brick. They literally
Oh,
slapped
yeah.
a logo
Okay.
on a brick.
The Supreme brick though was like it was like a phenomenon in marketing and just how stupid you could sell like make a product and then sell it because
Yeah.
I actually did the math on how much it would cost to make a Supreme brick based on like the average or how big a Supreme bricks for like the actual or actual normal house based off of the average home size in Canada. I don't have the numbers I don't have the numbers with me, but it was exorbitant because at the time at retail I'm pretty sure they were selling for like what $30, like something stupid.
Of course.
And I'll see if I can find the math for it. I did it a really long time ago. I'll see if I can find it though. Let me see if I can track it down. I'll keep scrolling through, but it was just stupid.
Yeah, and that's a one thing that I can appreciate as someone who is into business and is studying business right now, especially marketing. That is one of the most genius marketing ploys of any business I've ever seen because they have the lowest, I guess, margin of almost any company to like percentage sold over how much it costs to make, right? Like it probably like the t-shirt they use is cheaper than Gildan to make a Supreme t-shirt and they're selling it, let's just say, even if it's a non a rare one, right? It's very common, if that even exists. It's going to be in the hundreds of dollars, right? It costs them probably 5 cents to make that shirt, and they own the logo. To make a variation of the logo costs them nothing. They just go into Canva and make a different version of their own logo. Like they're designers. Like, and the brand, I'm so surprised that it's lasted this long because the brand itself is like an artificial brand itself. Like if you only have 100, the whole thing about Supreme is the secondary market is so much more expensive than the primary market, right? A Supreme t-shirt might cost $50 in store, but on the secondary market it'll cost $300, $400 because they only make 50. But one thing I don't understand, how do they make an insane amount of, the people who are making the best money are the people who are camping out in front of there and buying. There's a reason why they limit all this kind of, like, they're making the best margin because they're buying a $50 t-shirt and selling it for $500. But I'm so surprised that Supreme keeps on making so much money because they do so many limited releases of just a different version of the Supreme logo on a white t-shirt or on random objects that you might find in our society. One day there's going to be like, I swear to God,
left.
There's going to be a fork and knife with the Supreme logo on it. They literally have chopsticks. They have chopsticks, nunchucks, boxing gloves. They have anything you can think of will eventually have Supreme on it. And I'm surprised that they don't, like, they haven't almost imploded at this point.
Sorry to burst your bubble on not thinking this is real, but that's real. The spoon and fork.
Of course it is.
It's a switchblade thing with the Supreme logo on it.
Oh yeah, I remember. We went into a store and we saw that. Oh my God, it's crazy. Like, yeah, Supreme. That's one thing that I'm very surprised that it hasn't burst. Like, I guess they say the bubble has burst.
The
right?
market bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't reached their critical mass yet. I don't think.
Yeah, which is very interesting because I don't know. I can't really check the statistics of them, but I'm sure they've been growing throughout the last few years, last five to 10 years, right? They've just been skyrocketing because hypebeast culture is just huge, right?
Popping off.
Yeah, it's going crazy. Now, wonder one day I feel like it is going to, because it's so artificial that it's gonna pop one day, right? And I see this in a lot of other industries, like I mean the .com bubble, like that burst in the early 2000s. People are charging thousands of dollars for like Apple.com or whatever, like these domain names, and now they cost $2 a year to host. Like everything eventually will reach its peak and dissipate. But one thing I find very interesting, going back to watches, right? Rolex. People always talk about Rolex has indefinitely been getting higher and higher in price because they weren't made to be that. They're originally tool watches for divers, who would they wanted a watch so they could go diving on the weekend or during the week, sorry, and do their job, whatever they have to do, and then go out on the weekend with a nice looking watch. And that was the whole point of the Submariner. But now the Submariner has advanced to such a high level. It's become like supreme. You could not get a luxury a Rolex sports watch for years. You have to be on a waiting list, and you have to purchase another Rolex to be higher up on the waiting list. And they only produce maybe, like, I don't even know, very little per year, and they're charging maybe $8,000 to $10,000 for a steel watch, which is nuts because you can buy a solid gold watch for the same amount of money without being on a waiting list. And it's all because of Rolex marketing. It all comes back to the marketing of these companies. Like Rolex back in the day, they always were the tough tool watch brand, and then they transitioned to the luxury. Oh, this is a status symbol brand, and they've been pushing that for so long. And people keep on saying, eventually the Rolex bubble is gonna burst, and everyone's and Rolex is gonna be worth nothing and all that. But the thing with watches, they last so much. They stand the test of time, right?
Yeah.
And it's just been around for so long, and it shows how important marketing is to keeping these sorts of things alive. Like, I think it's amazing.
Well, these luxury products. Yeah, these luxury products live and die by their marketing because they're only as valuable as like people believe them to be and how much status they have with them, right? Like, again, we talk about the artistry of a product. Yeah, we talk about the artistry of a product, but again, a lot of people aren't even buying it for that. And a majority of these massive sales you hear about are not from people who are buying it for the artistry. It's for people who are just reselling this crap like online for more money.
Yeah, when it comes to hype stuff. No, it's fine. It's fine.
But that's the thing, is it's just you're right. They live and die by their marketing. And I think Supreme's an example of that. I think there are brands, yes, like Rolex, where they've lasted the test of time, and they've also had natural evolution of the brand over the eternity that's existed. But I think there is an aspect of artistry to it. You know what I mean? Like, there is
exactly
it is an aesthetically pleasing item. Like, Supreme is an example of a brand where they've just capitalized on marketing, and they will literally live and die by the status of the brand. And the moment people don't care that your fork and spoon says Supreme on it, the brand will die, inevitably. Where I don't think Rolex will have that much.
Exactly,
it has the artistry behind it.
Yeah, because it takes a lot more to create a watch movement that uses gears and hand wound components than put a T-shirt and slap your name on it.
Yeah, I can get some sweatshop worker in China to do
exactly
10 cents, and
I know
it'd probably still be the same quality or better.
Yeah, and it's just. It's like, they talk about the marketing mix, and it's like product, place, promotion, price. Literally, Supreme is just promotion. they have
the product at a good price point, obviously. The actual company itself it's just these people in the aftermarket that are...
Oh, man, dude, it's just price is crazy.
Oh, yeah, price. Yeah, no, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Swapping out of business. I'm out of practice.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Little rusty. Oh my god.
Yeah.
You're right, though. I think the idea of status and artistry, though, how the marketing mix affects those two things, is super interesting with these luxury products. And honestly, if you think about it, that's really only come about because of the advent of like again, everyday consumers being able to buy into these celebrity lifestyles that people seem to value so much. Right?
Exactly.
Like you see musicians or actors wearing like whatever designer streetwear, like
Yeah.
it sells out instantly the next day. It's just because of that influence. And I just think it's interesting that we've kind of created a market that can behave that way. But I think it'll be interesting to see where it goes in the future and when things will eventually just snap. Because it can't go like this forever. I don't know.
Yeah, Christian, I was actually wondering, since you're more experienced in, or you know a lot more about the comic market, I was wondering how do they market like people to purchase these comics? Like, I know obviously like classic comics have been around for the last 70 years. They don't need their own marketing, but
How do they get like modern comics to sell? Basically,
yeah, like new comics.
Well, they do a multitude of ways, right? So first of all, they have the variant covers, which is honestly one of the most genius marketing strategies I've ever seen in my life. You're literally making people pay like sometimes exorbitant amounts of money. Like they go up to 1 in 1,000, which are normally $1,000.
Yeah.
For the same book. It's the same interior, same everything. It's just the outside cover that's different. That's one of the genius marketing ways they do. Like here's an example for me. I collect Spawn. I missed out on a Spawn cover because I used to only buy 1 to 2 of the 4 covers they came out with. And that cover ended up being $120 when they're a $4 book. So after that, I basically said to myself, screw that. I'm not missing out on that ever again. I'm buying all 4 covers from now on. Same goddamn book, same interior pages. Just because of that one time that it screwed me over, I'm not missing out ever again. It's a genius marketing tactic. Another way they do it is first appearances. Like DC right now is horrible with this. Every single book they're coming out with now is a first appearance because first appearance because people are scared. Like, what if it's the next Batman? What if it's the next Superman? What if it's the next Spider-Man that shows up? They're just scared that they could miss out for the low price of $4.99 or $3.99 US. Mm-hmm. You could have the next $1 million book. That's how they get people to buy that. And also with like at least like smaller titles with like image books or like indie titles, when an indie book becomes like there's a standard in the comic collecting, basically Walking Dead for indie books. Walking Dead is like a $2,000 book, and that has become the standard. Basically, everyone's saying what will become the next Walking Dead. So all the marketing is basically around comparing their book to like super popular indie titles. So for example, this one series came out called Something That's Killing the Children. It became super popular in like about a year, and the first issue went from a $10 book to an $800 book, and everyone's comparing it to the next Walking Dead. So now all the solicits for indie books are saying this could be the next Something Is Killing the Children. If you like Something Is Killing the Children, you could read this book. It's just they compare and contrast to the popular titles and say, if you like this, you'll like our book as well. It's honestly pretty, like, it's slimy, but it's also kind of genius because, yes, it has gotten me to buy some books. I'm a sucker like that, but...
a sucker for the market.
At least he admits it.
Hey, man.
But that's how they basically market their comics.
Yeah, but that's very interesting. Yeah.
I will say, I think you're missing one, and I'll go back to it in a minute. But I will say one thing with the first appearances, though. Part of what drives the first appearances value, though, is the limited quantity of it. So if everyone's just buying all these first appearances, it will become a very long time, even if the character does become the next Spider-Man, before like it has any kind of value relation, just simply due to the amount of quantity that exists. Basic supply and demand rules, right?
Yeah. That's why the 90s comic bubble burst, because when everyone started seeing how much these old books were going for, they thought, oh my God, the death of Superman. This is going to be the last Superman comic ever made. I have to buy like 20 of them. Yeah. And because of that, this print run went from like 100,000 maybe in the 80s to like 2 million. Like Spawn #1, for example, has 2 million copies printed, and it's still a $40 book. Mm-hmm. Like there comes a point as well where even though a book is super high printed, it will still be worth more than the cover price you paid for it. Like it was $2 back then. But yes, I understand what you're saying is like a book will never hit Spider-Man or Walking Dead or Superman or Batman because of the print runs. Whereas nowadays print runs are not that large. Like on average, a popular title like Batman, whereas in the 80s and 90s it hit maybe like 500,000. Now it's hitting maybe 100,000. Like it's not as big as it used to be. So that's why everyone's very scared. And when a first appearance does hit off, they try to jump on it as soon as they can because it's like there's only 15,000 of this book printed. Well, like I have to get in on this.
But is the reason this is kind of that question, a little side off topic, but like, is the reason those print numbers are so much lower because there are less people buying into comic books, or because they're trying to like achieve that? Like, you get my point?
Oh,
like,
sorry, but like the publishers aren't purposely printing low copies. It's just that now
I'm like,
it's just now because everyone's moving to like digital comics. People buy the trade paperbacks, which are the collected editions, just because it's more convenient. Yeah, but like, for example, Invincible, when I'm collecting that series, I'm hearing constantly when I'm looking for the single issues, their stores are saying, I didn't order many of the single issues because people were just buying the trade paperbacks. So those print runs are all around 15,000 per issue. So it's not the publisher wanting to make a low print run. It's just depending on the series, more people will buy the single issue or just the trade paperback.
Okay, that's true. I would also say one marketing thing you may have missed out on, mainly because it's not like direct marketing, like is the movies and TV shows. And I say that because
definitely.
Marvel, I guarantee you they don't sit down and say we want to pump Hulk's comic books, we're gonna make a Hulk movie. But I mean, like you see what the numbers whenever an announcement comes out, the numbers in those books just jump like crazy.
Well, for example, like when Marvel didn't own the rights to like Wolverine and the X-Men and like Fantastic Four, they barely made any like X-Men and Wolverine comics and Fantastic Four. But right when they bought Fox back, oh boy, they came out like a train.
Yeah.
Like there was literally like one every month or like one every week right after they bought it. So yes, the movies do tie in. And also like
one Fantastic Four month. I stand by Fantastic Four kind of not being great. Kind of mid.
Oh, I wonder.
That's not this conversation, Beck. We'll get into that another time.
A little biased.
Yeah. But yes, you're right. The movies directly tie it. And even like some books, like for example, a new one, Werewolf by Night. He's been a character in Marvel for about 40 years. But instead of going with the classic version for the movies, they're rumored to be making the version in the MCU be the newest version from like 2020. So they do tie in the new books to the movies in most of the time.
Okay. Because I remember when Captain America, when Civil War came out in theaters, that was the whole Captain America as a Hydra agent arc that was going on right then, right? Like that was the whole.
Yeah, and they even relaunched Civil War. They made a second Civil War series.
Yeah. Okay. But Civil War 2 was not nearly as good.
Well, not even just Civil War 2. There's literally another series called Civil War.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Bro.
So that's how comics work.
These comic companies, man, they're fiending out here.
Oh, they're fiending, all right.
Yep, definitely.
Lord. Yeah, no. I think books is a really interesting market. Like, just crazy how much people go for these things. Actually insane. I also think it's interesting how, again, like Christian was saying, these variant covers can be used as like traffic drivers and like forms of marketing.
Don't even get me started on secret variants.
What?
There's more layers to this.
There are sometimes books that have a secret variant where Marvel or DC never says anything about it, or even Image does this, where they never say anything about a variant, they never solicit it, they never put it up for pre-order, they just show up. So, for example, Venom had one where instead of his tongue being in his mouth, it was out of his mouth, so it was sticking out. So that was one variant that they never said anything about. And one of them for Walking Dead was, in the little corner, there's a pink signature, and the pink signature made it a $50 book, whereas the normal one without is like $4.
These comic companies, man. These comic companies. Oh my Lord! And what about? Okay, so Christian, I think it's time we talk about the figure and Funko Pops. I think there's a real conversation to be had there with how, like, actually, I want to talk about Funko Pops first. My question is, Funko Pop is, how the hell do people make so many of them, and who's buying all of them?
Well, here's the thing: Funko is actually very similar to Supreme in a way, like how they market their figures.
Yeah,
is basically, they have exclusive releases, they have drops, like scheduled drops. So like Funko Shop exclusives only come out every Wednesday, and people hound around their computer trying to get it. Mm-hmm. But there has definitely
Bucci.
been ups
Sorry.
and downs.
Yeah.
There's been ups and downs in the market. So when I started collecting in like 2016, it was kind of just beginning the upward trend. And then in 2018, I'd say is when it just exploded. Like literally, Funko products would sell out in seconds. Like, and sometimes they still do, but it's nowhere near as regular as it was in 2018. Like they just sold out like instantly. It was like you had to line up to go get like an exclusive. I did it a couple times to get exclusives.
Vegito Blue.
Yeah, Vegito Blue. I bought 3 of them, thinking they'd be worth something. A Hot Topic reprints them, but there's definitely a bubble with Funkos. For example, I had one that was a My Hero one. I bought it before the show became like a super big hit, and it was like a $30 pop for the longest time. When the show became popular, it became a $500 pop, and I'm like, oh my god, I own a $500 pop. Awesome, like it's great to. It's just good knowing to have something like that's expensive in your possession that you could it's just nice to know. But then Hot Topic and Funko have to come in and say, oh well, for all the fans that missed out, we're reprinting it.
Yep.
That was the first time they ever did that, and that ruined the market. It became a $20 pop again. So,
Yeah.
but I do hear a lot of comparisons, like people saying, "Oh, well, the bubble will burst like Beanie Babies." Like everyone compared Funko.
Oh
to
yeah,
Beanie
Babies.
Beanie Babies, right?
I would almost disagree with that. Cause,
I was going to disagree as well, because
Yeah.
here's the thing: there's a difference between a random stuffed bear and Batman. People will
Yeah.
always recognize Batman in these recognizable characters in pop culture and media. But no one will fucking remember a stupid Beanie Baby in 30 years.
Exactly.
That's
You have to see
Product
the
of the
longevity of the product, right?
That's why, like, even if Funko dies off, and even if Funko never goes back to its height, it'll always maintain some value. It'll always maintain, like, if your pop is $400 today, it might go down to like $200. It'll never go back to its original price.
hey, that's good.
Yeah.
Or you can just get into some other markets that have higher buy-ins and higher returns. That's always
Yeah.
another option. For sure. Let's see. Do we have any other questions there, Sachin, or what are we looking at here? I'm just rattling things off as they come to my head if I'm bringing up anything.
Yeah.
But
So
I
one thing
want to know what you got.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking about as we're talking about all these collector industries and stuff is when you look at the not the parent company, let's say like the actual creator of the product. Let's just say Yu-Gi-Oh, for example, right?
Yes.
Yu-Gi-Oh creates cards, and their primary market is to sell their packs to consumers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The secondary market is where people resell individual cards and packets and all that sort of thing, right? One thing I find very interesting is when a lot of businesses start to focus more on the secondary market, or like literally take away from their primary market, and they want to cater directly to the secondary market.
So they basically make products directly made to resell.
Exactly. And then I feel like when you're talking about the comics being, nowadays it's limited, and Beck was asking the question about why are they reducing the number of prints, right? And I was thinking like that makes sense, because a lot of companies, they realize like it's not about the initial like sell, right? It's about the person who's buying it after the very first person. The perfect example of that, of the original company catering to the secondary consumer, is Supreme. Going back to them, if you think about it, they don't really care about selling the $50 t-shirt to the guy who's waited in line all night to make the $45 profit or whatever, right?
Yeah.
They care about that guy going on eBay and reselling for 500 to get 25, 30, 50 more people to come in to buy more and generate more traffic, and they can open up more stores. But it's really smart because they don't really have a small amount of product. Really, they have a lot of product, but every release is limited. So you have a limited release of 10 shirts, then you do another limited release of 10 shirts next week, and they keep on driving that. So it's really not about selling an individual product. They're really about expanding the product vocabulary, really, of the same, like, okay, we're going to release one colorway of a t-shirt, sell 10 of them. now we're going to release another colorway. And that's directly related, not to the primary market, but to the secondary market, where they know if they keep on making limited releases and increasing the number of their releases overall, that it still makes each individual release rare, but the number of Supreme products still increases. It's a genius plan, and like now they're expanding. They expanded to random objects, right? Like a brick and nunchucks and a fork and knife, right? They can just keep on. It's limited, right? But they just make another limited edition item, and they keep on making more individual limited editions. So they keep on releasing it side to side, but it's not in the same line, like not in the same product line. And
yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah,
I think the
I find
Supreme
it
Brick's
so
the best
interesting.
of all time. The brick is the best of all time because I think it's an example of just how ridiculous things have got.
I know.
Like how far things have gone where people are literally willing to spend hundreds of dollars for a brick because it has the company's name written on it. That's it's not even in line with fashion or what the brand started as, the skater brand. It is literally a piece that you use to assemble a building that they have turned into a product, and people will spend hundreds of dollars for the name. And I think that is it is perfect. I don't really like all the rest of the stuff, but the brick for me is the part where I'm like, I could get with that. The brick is just incredible.
That's just pure, beautiful marketing.
Yeah. That's meme status right there.
Yeah, that is a high level. Like they just memed on everyone who purchased that. I remember that guy. Did you see that video of the guy who was like standing in line for the crowbar?
Yes.
He's like,
why are you here to buy it? Because it's a fucking crowbar. Yeah. It's cool.
He's like, but it says Supreme on it. He's like, well, I don't even care. It says Supreme. I just want a crowbar.
He's like, bro, it said Supreme on it. I just wanted a crowbar.
Yeah. That's the level we've gotten to at this.
Well, I have an example of that exact thing basically in comics very recently. It literally was 2 weeks ago, where a big creator of Spawn, he was relaunching Spawn basically with a new title. And he was marketing as the first Spawn #1 in like 20 years or something like that. First of all, that doesn't mean shit. That's just a ploy marketing to get people to buy it. But second of all, there was a variant. Speaking of ratio variants, there's a 1 in 250 variant, which means that for a store to get one copy of this variant, they had to order 250 copies of the normal book. So you think, oh, it's a very limited book. And that's what he was advertising at. He's like, this is one of the rarest Spawn books of all time. It's going to be super low print run. You have to get this. You have to get it as soon as you can. And it was signed by him, right? Every single version of it was signed by him. And he said, I will never sign this book again. So creating fear in the consumer, saying, I have to get this book now. A FOMO, yes. But, and he said the final print run will be determined at the cutoff date of the orders. So basically when the orders close, we'll find out how many copies are made. So we find out how many are made. And it turns out to be like 1,700. Now that might sound low in general, but there are Spawn books that exist that are like 500 print run, 250 print run, 1,000 print run. I own one that's 1,000 print run and it sells for like $90. Yet this book that has a 1,700 print run is selling for $1,000 on eBay. Like, why? There's no
signature on it. He's never signing it again.
But like, he signed millions of things. It's not like his signature is like super rare.
You got played, guys. You got played.
Yeah,
and you
like
just gotta.
These people are just going through the cycle of depression at this point. Like
we should call this phenomenon the Supreme Brick.
The Supreme Brick.
You just got bricked. You just got Supreme bricked.
Got bricked.
Let's be honest.
I'm gonna write that down.
Anyone who's spending $1,000 on a comic book, their brain was bricked a long time ago. Because
haven't we not talked about that? I'm debating buying a $300 book.
You're not spending $1,000 on a comic book. There's a big difference. There's a big difference between $300 and $1,000.
I know, but the most I've ever spent on a book before this is like $70, and that book was worth like $300. So
Christian, there's a big $700 difference before taxes that is being applied to that transaction. Okay, like all I'm saying.
Is it sad that I actually know people who would buy that book? Like someone was willing to spend at least $500 on that book. It's ridiculous.
There's people who went and bought a Supreme Brick.
I know. I'm not surprised, dude. Not surprised.
Fair. Oh man.
Yeah, because oh my god, it is so stupid, so stupid.
That's why business is the best, dude. You can't do this as a doctor. You can't
Yeah,
trick
no,
you can't trick
yeah.
people to buying a brick with your name with some random name on it.
Actually, well, never mind. We're not gonna have that conversation.
Yeah,
Never mind. Never mind. I didn't say anything.
I
yeah.
guarantee you, if Spawn released a brick with its logo on it, it would sell.
Of course it
Yeah,
would.
yeah. I could actually no.
It's a power of branding, man. It's a power of
I could.
branding.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. Yeah. This is just such a ridiculous like conversation and concept of how values derive from product and what we value and why they're valued.
Yeah.
And I just think once you get to the point of I don't remember, was it the tulip? I don't know. Let me look this up real quick. Tulip. Oh, okay. Do you want to talk about NFTs briefly? Because I think it really applies a lot to this.
Oh yeah.
Can we talk about
We got some
NFTs?
time. We got some time.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Okay. Have you heard of Tulip Mania?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So basically, what happened is Tulip Mania is where the whole idea of I'm pretty sure the bubble burst started. Like it was a time I'm reading this online right now.
Oh wait,
It occurred in
I
college.
know what this is.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
During the early to mid 1600s, where speculation drove the value of tulip bulbs to extremes. At the height of the market, the rarest tulip bulbs were traded as much as 6 times the average person's annual salary. Today, Tulip Mania serves as a parable for the pitfalls that excessive greed and speculation can lead to. And you can just see NFTs are going through this right now with all stupid things online, and I just think it's hilarious.
Dude. Dogecoin.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just made as meme currencies that they've skyrocketed. I mean, I feel like that's a conversation for a whole like episode we could talk about.
I feel like it is, but I think if we just want to, again, we can have this conversation for a whole
Let's
episode.
just keep a brief statement on NFTs. Yeah. I will put my opinion out there. I despise them. I think they're like one of the dumbest ideas in human history.
Oh, remember that guy? Oh, dude.
I think it's literally no different.
You are not owning a tangible object. You are owning the idea of owning an art piece.
Okay, I actually agree and disagree in the sense that I think that there's some art that people have developed, like, so you talk about like online, the tools people are able to use to develop like 3D art and stuff like that.
Okay,
like
maybe stuff like that. That's fine, but I'm starting to see like comic book art is being auctioned as NFTs. Why the hell would you spend an exorbitant amount of money on the cover art of Fantastic Four #1 when you can just buy the damn book?
Yeah, my point being with the NFTs though is I think the NFTs on paper are actually a great idea. I think it's a good way for artists who are working in the digital realm to sell their work. I just think we need to reach a point where we're pushing the medium to its fullest, using its benefits that it provides over actual physical print media. You know what I mean? Like, because just creating scarcity through digital art, like. If the digital art, if you were just printed off, has the same effect, where's the value in that? You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think if we really push what technology is able to do with digital art to its limits, I think we could see some really interesting stuff with NFTs and saying, I have the only version of this unique digital art that's pushing the medium and really shows someone's talent and skill with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I think it's, there's good and bad, of course, right there, but if we can get to a point, honestly, because artists, like you talked about last episode with Charles, how artists struggle to make money at all these different situations. There's so many ways to pirate things, and even us artists are guilty of doing it, and convenience over reaching. Like we talked about a lot of these things last podcast, so those of you who are interested, you can check out the first episode. But yeah, I mean, it's a really big discussion, and to be honest, I'm not too well versed in it, but I think there are good and bad things to this. But there are this sort of ridiculous aspects as well, as Christian mentioned, and like I feel like just like everything, we need time will tell, right? And we'll see how this sort of thing pans out because it's going to happen and it's going to continue in the future, and we can't stop it, right? So there's no point in we just kind of have to accept the change and try to adjust as long along the way. And on that note, that is the end of our episode for this week. So, thank you for being here, guys, Christian and
No
Beck.
problem. No
No
problem.
problem.
No
Anytime.
problem. This
Yeah,
is a
really,
good time.
I really appreciate talking
That was
about
good.
Everything from comic books to Supreme bricks to NFTs. That's gonna be the thumbnail.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the name of the video. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. Make sure to check us out on Instagram at the.way podcast. And you can check out our website in the link in our bio. So, yep. See you guys next week.